According to the approved site plan right here, the fence line is incorrect.
I don't care what those papers say.
The association rules state the fence must remain exactly where it is.
Blue and red lights washed over my front windows, and the cold air bit my ankles as I stepped onto the porch. A tow truck idled at the curb, diesel fumes mixing with the sharp smell of fresh asphalt from the road crew down the block. The driver pointed at a bright sticker slapped on my car. HOA violation. Blocked access. It was 5:12 a.m., too early for sense. Then Karen from the board stepped out of her SUV with a camera. "Move the car now," she said. "Sing-song suite or pay the fine." My driveway looked shorter than it was last week, pinched by the ugly wooden fence that stuck 3 feet into my concrete like a splinter. It creaked in the cold. This wasn't an accident. It was a move. A dare. Here's the fight in one sentence. HOA built a fence on my driveway. In 2009, then I filed the easement. Back then, I was new to the neighborhood. I let it slide when they said it was temporary, a safety barrier after a small flood. Temporary turned into forever. A decade rolled by. I still parked tight and kept the peace. But this morning's stunt with the tow truck lit something in me. Karen smirked and said the board had voted. The smell of her burnt coffee drifted across my lawn. I looked at the fence, at my car, at the little crack in the old post with a date carved into it. 2009, I said. That fence is on my land. She said, "Prove it." I tried to start civil. I emailed the board. I knocked on doors. Neighbors whispered through chains and side windows like the HOA had ears. At the open meeting on May 3rd, 2024, I waited 3 hours. When my name was called, Karen stared past me. I said my driveway was built in 1998, that the property pins show the line, that the fence cut into my access. The board attorney showed up late, looked bored, and said, "Use street parking like everyone else." A neighbor texted me after, "Just keep your head down." The next morning, I got 2 bright fines for noncompliance and an orange note taped to my mailbox at 6:10 a.m. Then came the calls. Timeline item 1, April 5 at 4:27 a.m. false trespass call. I was in bed. A second call on April 8th at 9:00 p.m. for supposed noise from my empty garage. Patterns of false reports can be prosecuted. Point taken. I drew my line without yelling, without threats. Only proper channels. I called a surveyor. He clicked his tripod and found the old iron pin under my grass with a metal chirp. I pulled the plat map from the county portal, and the little dotted rectangle jumped out like a secret. Utility and driveway easement recorded in 1980. I filed a notice and requested a copy. The clerk slid a heavy packet across the counter. The file landed with 63 pages. The page that mattered was stained and crisp and perfect. 10 feet of access from the street to my garage, perpetual, running with the land. I lined up photos, emails, and call logs in a binder. On the spine I wrote, "Fence 2009. I sent a polite letter to the board, certified mail with a printout. Removed the encroachment in 14 days. No tantrum. Just dates, times, and map lines. They laughed in the group chat. I know because someone forwarded it to me at 2:31 p.m. Good luck, map boy. So I set the trap with sunlight and witnesses. On the 15th day, I stood at the edge of my drive as the surveyor chalked the easement line in a bright stripe from curb to garage. I invited the city inspector and our council liaison. Both copied on everything. I set a lawn chair on the grass and a thermos of coffee next to it. Karen rolled up with 3 board members and a tape measure. She started a live stream. She said, "Today we enforce the rules." The inspector said, "Great, let's measure." He followed the chalk, counted off feet, and stopped at the fence. He tapped the post with his clipboard, all on camera. He asked Karen to hold the tape. The look on her face as the number hit the easement width was TV gold. Word spread. Phones came out. Comments scrolled on Karen's live. "Girl, that's an easement." One neighbor snorted laughter so hard he dropped his latte. Another whispered to me, "I thought you'd blow up." This is better. When the inspector read the clause, perpetual access, there was a tiny O from Karen's mouth. The council liaison cleared his throat and said the city recognized the recorded grant. The inspector issued a correction notice on the spot. 30 days to remove the fence from the easement. He added, "And if you move against vehicles here, that could be unlawful interference." The tow truck driver shut off his strobe. Karen tried to pivot, saying the board had voted unanimously. The inspector shrugged. Votes don't beat records. The flip came faster than I expected. At the emergency board meeting, the room was packed. People who never spoke showed up with chairs, kids, and quiet fury. I brought my binder and put it on the table. Karen tried to say my photos were doctored. I slid the certified stamp across to the attorney. He held up his hand. The projector showed the same dotted rectangle I'd found glowing on the screen. A woman from lot 12 stood and said they'd been ticketed 9 times for parking in their own drive, and she had receipts. The attorney's voice got low. He said the easement is valid. The fence must be removed. Fines based on blocking access are void. He glanced at Karen. He read out the complaint count against the board, 17 in the last 60 days, and the letters from the city. Then he recited the rule everyone could understand. You can't block recorded access. It's not a gray area. Peace came back piece by piece. The fence came down at 10:02 a.m. on a bright Saturday, watched by half the street. The board rescinded my fines, refunded $2,000 in tow threats, and issued a public apology. Karen gave up the presidency at the special meeting that Tuesday, eyes wet, voice thin. Consequences were clear. Mandatory training for the board, an independent review, and a new rule requiring public posting of any votes within 24 hours. My driveway looked long again. My neighbor's kid rode his scooter up and down the chalk line while I grilled hot dogs for the block. The air smelled like pepper and clean summer. When the new president stopped by, she said, "We're better with you here." I laughed and handed her a plate. I kept the binder on a shelf, not to gloat, but to remind me that calm and paper beat noise and teeth. Please follow for more HOA showdowns like this. Do you think she got what she deserves? Comment below.